Hello guys, welcome to the Code Patch. My name is Nick and this is your 13th C++ programming tutorial. So in the last tutorial we learned what arrays are, so remember this picture, and how do we print out an array. So in this tutorial we want to make our user create an array, then do some operations with it and then print it out on the screen. So let's just do that. So first we're going to say int n, and this int n is going to be a variable in which we will be storing how many elements our array has. So now when we created this, we're going to say cout and please enter. Alright, so I misspelled this a little bit. Okay, and new line. Okay, and now we're going to see in this n. Alright, so we're going to store in the n whatever our user inputted for this. And now we're going to create an array. So let's just call it array1, and it has n elements. Alright, so you see how we did that. So now we want our user to input each value for each of our elements. So we want our user to put, for example, for array of 0 to be 5 or so on. So how do we do this? Well, also using a for loop. So you write for and you create, right? So I is a counter, it goes while I is lesser than n, and we're going to increment I in our iteration. So you remember this for, right? And here we're going to say cout a, so array of, right, let me just close here, array of I equals, then close this. Alright, and here we're going to say cin, so input a value for each element, and we're going to say array of 1 of I. Alright, so let me just see if this works. So it's going to ask us for number of elements. We're going to say, for example, 6. Okay, 6. And we're going to say array of 0 is 5, array of 1 is 4, array of 2 is 7. Alright, so just random values. And there it is, we inputted our array. So our user used our program to input an array. And alright, so how did we do this? So first we said that n is going to be a number of elements, and that was inputted by our user. And then we used that n to initialize our array to have n elements. So if for example I entered 6 elements, so n is going to be 6, and then our array is going to have 6 elements. And in the for, we're going to say that our counter starts at 0 and goes until it's 6, and we increment it in every iteration. And here we say array of, so we have these two brackets, and inside is going to be whatever is in the I. So in the first iteration is going to say array of I is going to be 0, so array of 0, and in the next I is going to be 1, so here it will be array of 1 equals, and so on. And this cin is basically the same as this, so we're going to input a value for every element in the array. So in the first iteration is going to be array of 0. So you remember when we said array, for example, array of 0 is, okay, let me just, is 5, for example. So that is how we do that here also. So in the first iteration is going to be 0, then 1, then 2, then and so on. Alright, so that is how we input an array. So let's just do that again. Alright, so let me show you again. So input 5, and now n is going to be 5, so it's going to create an array of 5 elements. And in the for, it's going to go from 0 to 5, and for each iteration it's going to say array of I, which is now 0 in the first iteration, is going to be 4. So now array of I, which is 1 now, is going to be 5, and so on. Alright, so that is how we input an array. And now let's do something with that array. So we want to sum the elements of the array. So we want to sum them all into one variable. So if we had an array of 6 elements, we want to take all of these 6 elements and add them together. Alright, so let's just create a variable int that is called sum. Alright, sum. I'm going to set it to 0 to initialize it, and then again we're going to create a for. Alright, so let me just create a for, and now once we have this n, the number of elements, we're going to be using this n all of the time. So in the end we have the number of elements, and whatever we need to do with an array, we know how many elements it has. So let's just say while I is lesser than n, I plus plus, right? And inside here we are going to sum this. So we're going to say sum plus equals to array 1 of I, right? So this line is the same as sum equals sum plus array 1 or array of I. So these two lines are the same, just to, alright, and now we're going to sum, for example, first array of 0 is going to be, for example, 4. So sum is sum plus 4, which is 4. Then when the next iteration comes, it's going to say array of 1, and for example array of 1 is 3, so it's going to be 4 plus 3. And so now in the end we're going to see out sum to the screen, right? Let me just now compile and run it. So I'm going to enter number of elements, which will be 4, and first will be 5, then 6, then 7, then 8, and the sum is 26. So check that, so add them together and you'll get 26. Alright, and let's say, for example, we don't want to sum it, we want to add 1 for every element. Alright, so we want to increment every element by 1, and then we're going to print it out on the screen. So let me copy this and delete this, alright, and say array of I is equal to array of I. Okay, so this for right here is for printing out our array, and we did that in the last tutorial, so I'll explain to you guys how we do this. And now let's just add 1 for to each array. So we're going to say array of 1 of I. So go through all the elements of this array, and alright, I didn't want to do that. And for every element you want to add 1 to it, so we're going to say plus plus. Alright, and let's just see what happens now. So number of elements will be 5, and let me just do something like this, 4 and 5. So you see, alright, so it didn't print it out nicely, but you see it added 1 for every element. So let's just print it out a little bit nicer and add a line for every. Alright, so let's do it again. 5 elements, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and here it is. So it added 1 to every element. Alright, so that's it for this tutorial. I hope you guys understood it. So this is really important. We will be using fors and arrays all of the time. So please, if you didn't understand anything, just say in the comments or send me a message or just rewatch the video, and I hope you will learn this eventually. So this is very important. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.